Today we'll be looking at the solar system. In the last lesson, we looked at the universe as a whole, how it's broken into galaxies. Galaxies are made up of stars, and some of those stars have planets that orbit them. So looking at our solar system, which is the sun and the planets that orbit it, there are 8 planets plus Pluto. Pluto's still there. It's just too small to be considered a planet. Also orbiting the sun, there's an asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. There's also comets. So there's many things other than the planets that are in our solar system. So the first question is, how did our solar system form? Well, it began as a nebula, which is a cloud of dust and gas, and gives us what we call the Nebular Theory. So it didn't begin to look like a solar system until about 4.6 billion years ago. We know this because the oldest rocks on Earth are 4.6 billion years old. So the Nebular Theory states that the solar system began as a nebula, which was a cloud of dust and gas. They're usually made of about 92% hydrogen, 7% helium, and then the rest makes up 1%. But something caused it to start spinning and contracting, maybe a nearby exploding star giving off energy. So most of the gases, most of that hydrogen was concentrated at the center and became what is now the sun. The leftover dust and gas began orbiting the sun, and you can see through each of these images how organized it becomes until eventually those rings of dust and matter have clumped together to form the planets. So the way that happens, any two objects in space, no matter how big they are, have gravity. The larger they are, the stronger the force. So all of this matter that was in these rings started to attract each other. They would collide, clump together, became larger and larger until they were planets. This whole process is called accretion. All right, so we'll start with the 4 planets closest to the sun, the inner planets. When they initially formed from the collisions, they were heated and melted, so molten rock like lava. They lost their original atmospheres, so what was left were these rocky cores. So they are very small. We call them the terrestrial planets because they are solid rock. Today they have a very thin atmosphere, but they're mainly solid, and that's Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Once we go beyond Mars, there's an asteroid belt that separates the inner planets from the outer planets. The outer planets are called the Jovian Planets, which means Jupiter-like. Jupiter is this first one here. It's the largest. Jupiter is mostly gas. It's made up of hydrogen, just like the sun. These 4 planets, because they are so large, maintain their original atmosphere. So they're actually mostly gas. You can't land on the surface of these planets. They're also known as the gas giants. They're basically have the same makeup as stars. They're just a lot smaller. So these 4 planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And that's it for our solar system.